Welcome to the first episode of the Abhisek Cast. In this episode, I talk with Louis Nyffenegger, who is the founder and CEO of PentesterLab. From starting out as a trainee to building one of a well-recognized hands-on platform for learning web application security, Louis shares his journey and the lessons he picked along the way. We explore real-world security, his views on CTF certifications, and much more. I'm Abhishek, and you are listening to the Abhishek Cast. So, first of all, thank you for joining the podcast and accepting my invite. And I am very grateful to have you here. And it's my first podcast, and you accepted my invite. And so grateful for that. So, let's get started and let's start with the childhood, how you got into cybersecurity, how your childhood was, what was your environment, and things about that.
Okay, so I started playing with computers pretty late in life, like around 16 or something like that, 15 or 16, because at the time there wasn't that many computers. So I probably I start playing with computer at like 8 or 10, but I started really doing computers like around 16, like learning HTML and C and things like that. So pretty late. But and I really like from that point in time, I really like understanding how things were working together. Like why, when you were accessing a website or like accessing the internet, how things were working. So I start like digging and digging and digging and like really like understanding more and more and really enjoying that part. And then I met like a few people who were really into security when I was at university. And that got me into it, basically like starting like spending time, more and more time on IRC, more and more time like reading code, looking at CVs, looking at exploits and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Since you told about the mentors, the people you met during your journey, so what is the key things did they play in your life? Like when you started to learning some new things and you get to meet a lot of people. And what is some key factor that you see on the people and how did they help you on your life journey?
I think what I really enjoyed is that a lot of those people were really passionate about security and about like Linux and understanding like how to install system, how to secure them, and how to take the time to like really deep dive and looking at tiny details and really like going down rabbit holes and like finding like all the little things that seems like nobody would care about, but actually caring about those things and how caring about those will like deeply increase your understanding of systems and therefore your understanding of security.
Got it. All right. Through LinkedIn, I did see you the experience which you had, and it starts from being a trainer to an CEO. So you have definitely been in like a lot of companies, met a lot of people, being in a different role from starting from being a trainee, security engineer, consultant, and being an CEO right now. So it should have been like you've been at different places at different levels and met a lot of different places. So what is the one key role which you liked a lot, and what is something which it's like can take away from all these things?
I think I really liked all those jobs. Like they had like all really good pro and cons. And as you evolve, you know more and more what you like and don't like. And also like security changed a lot since when I started. When I started, it was something like really like tiny. Basically, no one cared about security. And it was not even an industry. It was like a sub part of IT and really, really tiny. Basically, at the time, people were not pen testers. You were like a security consultant and you were doing like code review, system audit, training, and pen test as well. But pen tester wasn't even a job at the time. So like I grew up like in those roles as much as those roles didn't existed. Like application security engineer didn't exist when I started. Pen tester barely existed. It's like, yeah, but I really enjoy like all the jobs I had until now. It's really like I've been very, very lucky to great people and work at great places as well.
And it's definitely right. Even right now, to find resources for like specific part of cybersecurity, it is very tough. And right now, we see people doing a lot of video and bringing up better contents. Being like learning cybersecurity at your times, it's
even harder than how we see right now as well. So being an CEO right now, so how does your day look like? Like how do you start? How does that go?
So I start my day like everyone else, wake up in the morning, get breakfast, and then I start working, mostly like dealing with what is the most important for PentesterLab. So sometimes it's doing marketing, sometimes it's creating content, sometimes it's meeting with clients or trying to find new clients. It's a bit of everything. Sometimes I'm traveling. Today, what did I do? Mostly creating content today, creating content for new courses. Sorry, I have a list of recording videos and things like that today. Yeah. But every day is very different from the previous day and the next. It's basically whatever needs to be done. That's my daily, like what I do on a daily basis is what's the most urgent thing to be done. And let's do that.
Well, then. So how do you balance like uh, there should be your own personal family and also the professional life, right? So how do you balance in between? Is there anything? So how do you prioritize that? So is there any particular like an model that you follow, like an mental model, something? So this one should I like take it as an first priority, and how do you see that?
I mostly go with the flow and see what I feel like. I don't really like have set rules around like, okay, this is family time, this is like work time. I mostly like just go with the flow. And if like, I don't know, I need to take care, I need to spend time with the family, I then catch up on work later on. I don't have like predefined rules to say like, okay, this is my work life, this is my family life and things like that. And it's
Okay.
very fluid.
That's nice. That's nice. So let me just bring upon the buzzword right here, which is AI, right? So let's compare that with the startup environment. So there are a lot of new different startup products coming every day, and the recent days we can see a lot of startups that's coming into AI part, and most of them the AI part is not specifically into building it from the scratch. Rather, it's been a like a top layer of wrapper that is added over there, like specifically trained for some certain use cases. Though, how do you see LLM models and AI at this time?
It's interesting. Like it has changed a lot recently. I feel like it's going to be a great tools for people to be more productive, but at the same time, feels like so for people who have already been working in security for a long time, I think it's a great tools because it's like having an executive assistant or a junior like sitting next to you and you can ask them to do things and they give you back results and then you can check those results. So if you're like been like doing work for a long time and really understand everything, it's really like a superpower. The problem is that for people who have not been doing this kind of work for a long time, it's going to make things a lot harder because there are times where where like at the moment, AI is just not good enough. Like it's easy for an AI to create easy exploits or find low hanging fruits. But if you ask AI to create complex exploits or really understanding things in depth or even like give AI complex bugs, it just like make things up or doesn't realize that. And so there is an element of like, it can't do hard work. And as a human, to be able to do hard work, you need to struggle and do the easy work and fail at the easy work and get better and better and better. The problem is that right now, people who are like beginning, when they have trouble with the easy work, they don't struggle. They ask the AI and the AI give them the result. So a lot of people will miss their chance and never struggle on easy problem and straight away go on hard problem because that's when the AI is like hit the ceiling and just can't do things. So it's like the step is too high and they struggle a lot because they don't have this learning curve to go from like easy problem to fix to then harder problem. So I think that's going to be a problem in the future where like a lot of people who are starting now or in the first 3 or 4 years of their career in security are going to struggle to get better because they have this AI, this assistant that helps them so much and they don't spend hours like debugging problem and gaining this experience that you need to have if you want to work on hard stuff.
So the people who knows the nuts and bolts of how internet works, how an packet works, how the headers like really manipulate things. So only the people who really understand the basics really matter. So that's what you are trying to say, right?
Yeah.
So let me just bring this topic like and drift to the PentesterLab. So I did try using the platform and tried logged in. Like I did see what are the contents that is available inside. It's into the courses and CTF like challenges. So I have been a CTF player for like 3-4 years, and based on the CTF point of view, so I have learned a lot of things like starting from how to see an website, how to see an Android application or a network or an IP address, and it has given us a lot of perspective. Like each and every CTF challenge is like a different way it is built on, and there are like different categories as well. It is like some of them are funny and some of them are very hard and very technical inside, right? But the gap which I see with CTF is that we usually approach CTF challenges as one of an vulnerable lab, and we definitely know that there is some vulnerability and just we are missing out. But when we just compare this in contrast with an penetration testing, right? We really don't know if the application is actually vulnerable or not. And also, we don't know when we should stop and a vulnerability is like present or not. It's like only if you know like the deeper part how and particular vulnerability exists, and only then you will be able to find out when to stop testing for something. So how do you see that, and how, if you can put this question like in contrast with how PentesterLab addresses it, it will be a great.
So I think you never know if a vulnerability is here or not. And you just have to test for it and keep testing and testing and testing. That's often why people really like CTF and have trouble moving to like security research, is because CTF are comfortable. Like, you know, there is something to find, right? Where research, you just spend time and you may have nothing to show for it. So I'm not saying like CTF is easier or harder than research. It's just like, it's a different mind game. Like, you know that you're going to struggle, but there is something to be found. Where when you do research or when you do pen tests, you potentially like looking for something that doesn't exist, right? And I think the problem is that people nowadays want to be so productive. They want to like have results. They want to be able to demonstrate that they found something, that they don't realize that doing research or doing pen tests without finding anything, like basically what they call wasting time, is actually a great thing. And that's really something you need to do if you want to get better. Like all the time you're spending doing research or pen testing where you don't find anything, it's time that you are learning. And you are learning new things about frameworks, about application. You're also just learning to be more resilient. You're building your resilience over time. And that's something that is really, really important, especially if you want to like hack on like hard applications, like things that are really secure. You're going to have to spend month and month not finding anything. And you can't just do that overnight, right? You need to build that resilience. So that's why it's so important to do that. To do that, PentesterLab, what we do is trying to teach people to be more resilient, especially with code review. We go from like very small snippet of code, then we go like full CV with a diff, and then we go like full small application to help people like go from 10 lines of code to 10,000 basically, or 1,000, but building their resilience over time and getting them to get better. But again, I think it's mostly in the way people want to be productive. People want to have results. People want to be like on a score at the top of a scoreboard or something, as opposed to enjoying the process and enjoying like learning. And they forget that the goal is not to win or to get like on a scoreboard. The goal is to get better and gaining like a deeper understanding and finding better bugs.
In contrast with that, so when looking into the PentesterLab application, right? So one of the things which I uniquely noticed was the source code review part, which I don't see at a lot of places. We definitely have CTF challenges which involve source code review, but true, this is like an embedded process that I seen that on the platform. Like when I did an walkthrough about how the course is structured into, it starts with the basics part, it goes into a like step by step vulnerability spot, and it also covers some part of like Android pen testing as well. So So how did you end up coming to this structure? Like, how did you compare the courses? Like when it comes to different competitors that is on place, and how did you compare and end up to this model?
So I'm trying to build the best platform for web, like web attack and source code review for web applications. And I'm trying to build the platform that teach people to understand things. And that's why people like PentesterLab so much, is because, and I got a lot of feedback on that, is people telling me that a lot of other platforms are like hacking is like magic. You run that command and you get the result and you are hacking. With PentesterLab, what I'm teaching people is to understand why attacks are working, to understand how to create their own script, their own tool, and do their own thing. Like not only rely on other people's work, but create their own tooling, create their own exploit, and really gaining like a deeper understanding. And part of that is also like doing a bit of source code review on some of the hacking labs. So people get the hacking part, like the black box testing, and then they also get the code review to understand really what is happening. And I think that's something I'm really proud of for PentesterLab, is as well the level of depth. Like we have like, I don't know, 16 or something like challenges on JW, 12 or 13 challenges on SAML, like probably deeper than any other platform. So if you're really like, if you care about knowing the basic, it's great. You can probably go everywhere. But if you want to get really good and gain like a deep understanding and be like really good at that, I would recommend PentesterLab.
So when it comes to this CTFs and courses and stuff, right? So there is an usual problem of the contents getting like leaked, pirated, and getting available like in different sources. And it applies to every person who is trying to sell courses or anything like that. And I also heard them that if there is an content going out and it isn't part of like they see it like it isn't publicity for the company as well, and it makes people to see the content and makes them really go pay for it and buy. So how do you see this point from your point of view?
I think one of the things I'm trying to make sure is that any protection in place doesn't make it harder for real customers. Because you can do like, you can put like a lot of protection and prevent a lot of people, but then if it's hard or if the experience sucks for people who are actually paying, that's a real problem. After that, I think the value of PentesterLab is, even if you have access to some of the stuff, it's everything together with the video, the lab, and everything in one place. So even if you access part of it, it's just the value is not here. I think the value is when you have access to everything, you have access to me when you need, like when you have questions and things like that. I think like, and we also provide content for free. We have like a full recon badge with 25 exercises, I think. We like have like 2 or 3 labs for free every month that we rotate. So like people will still always try to pirate content, but like that's not, I'm much more worried about people doing like credit card fraud than people pirating like or sharing content.
Got it. Yeah, that's definitely correct, right? So it's not even though if the content is getting leaked and it's not going to be a package, right? So definitely they're going to miss out something. Well, building a challenge, right? So for example, if we take a basic vulnerability, so there is like a lot of different labs that is available. That is something which you can go and try it out. So is there any specific model that you follow to build each and every challenge? Like, is there a specific difficulty set? Is there an like a certain set of perspective that you try to impose? To give a better example about that, so if we care about the business logic vulnerabilities, so it is going to be very specific to the application that we are trying to test. It can be a e-commerce application or it can be just a chatting application. But again, the business case is going to be different for the chatting application and the e-commerce application. It is going to really depend upon how the functionality is built and how it can be abused, right? So is there any specific thing that you try to address about these things on the challenges or the courses that you are trying to build?
So I'm trying to build, so I have created like a lot of challenges, and I think creating the challenges is the easy part. What is hard is creating a lot of challenges, because after a point, you have covered like a lot of content. And then the work is more like finding just the new things that are important and that are interesting, because it's easy to like put content and content and content all the time. But if you put the same content, that's not really interesting, right? You really need to build up the content in a way that people are always learning new things. They're not just like solving labs and labs and labs and labs. Like my goal is to not have people like spend hours just solving labs. My goal is having them to learn new things. So a big part of that is following research, following everything that is new. And yeah, and that's keeping me busy. And also the lab is just one part, but then you need to create the videos for the lab. And that's also like very time consuming to do like good videos. So yeah, creating the lab is kind of the easy. Creating one lab once you know exactly what you need to do is the easy part.
So let me just bring this to another topic, which you are posting it out on LinkedIn. So it is going to be about penetration test, about how you perform the penetration test and how you deliver the report. So you definitely posted a part that uh, like reporting part and the pen testing part plays an equal role, where reporting part is never going to compromise the pen testing part. The more we focus on the pen test and the more interesting findings that we have on the network or the application really matters. And you did post about it. And so what made you post that, and what was the real thing that you were saying? And so you wanted to bring that up.
So I think it's always, so I spoke with people recently and around reporting, and like a lot of people think like reports is what you are selling to the client, right? Where what you're actually selling is a pen test. And my opinion is that the report is a packaging of the product. And the point is that a lot of people are like, and especially if you talk with managers, like the report is the most important thing because they're not doing pen tests anymore. They're mostly doing a report. So that's their job. So it's more important. But what you need to take into account when you're buying pen test is there is like a little scale. And let's say you have 10 days. How much of those 10 days are spent doing pen tests, and how much of those 10 days are spent doing like other things? Could be like meetings, could be reporting, could be like daily updates and all those things. And at the end of the day is like, where are you comfortable? And when you pay for 10 days of pen test, do you get 10 days of pen test, or do you get 8 days of pen test and then 2 days of other task? Or do you get 5 days of pen test and 5 days of other task? Or do you get 1 day of pen test and 9 days of other task? Like, to put it to the extreme. But, and also like a lot of companies like modern Abhisek team don't really care about the report. Like, and that's something that is hard to accept for people doing like for pen test boutiques, is that most modern AppSec team want bugs to be fixed. So sometimes they just want something written in Jira, or they just want an email, or even better, they just want a patch that fixes the actual bug. So like a lot of people are still in this mindset, like, oh, the report is the most important things, but the most important things is finding the bugs and getting rid of them. So sometimes you need a really good report to make that happen. But sometimes you just need to send an email or send a patch and that's done. So it's, yeah, everything is different. But like, I think I like to discuss, I'm very passionate about AppSec and I really like to talk about that and get over people's opinion. And yeah, I think it's interesting to at least ask the question and get people's opinion. Like when you talk to some people, they hate reports because a report is hard to do analytics on it. Like they'd rather having the findings in JSON or in a database, because this way they can have like analytics around like the number of bugs, the number of bugs fixed and things like that. Because they don't care about one pen test, they care about 20 pen tests at a given point in time. So they don't care about one report. They want everything in a database, and they don't care about like having an actual like report. They just want to be able to juggle with the data and get analytics on that. So yeah.
So what you're saying is that, so is it like when there is an higher level executive people who are trying to look into the reports, they just want to know if my organization or my product is secure or not. Not just really into like, we just want an higher level, higher quality findings rather than having an beautified report.
It depends. Some people also want a report with no findings so they can show that to their customers. Like they're like, oh, so there are companies who have two ways of doing pen tests. There are their amazing Abhisek like pen testers they love that they get to do like their ongoing pen tests and like finding cool bugs. And they have their not so great pen test team that they use to just have a clean report for compliance and to show to their customers. So this way they have a clean report to show to their customers and their compliance officer. And on the other hand, they got like really nice findings and they're actually doing like proper security.
Okay. Okay. This is a bit new. I haven't like seen this perspective. Like there are like two categories of people and focusing in two different parts. Okay. That's really new to me. So, a little bit more about the same penetration testing part. When we talk about the certifications, right? So there are a lot of well-known certifications out there, and it is very well built with a lot of different categories, different kind of attacks that we had to know. But the thing which I see or an gap with the penetration, like the courses, is that the courses only teaches the contents which is present inside, but rather like giving an research perspective or trying to dig more about a particular vulnerability is like it becomes like a limited part when we opt to an course. So how do you see this particular point that like a person, like when you're trying to hire someone, like let's say if there is a senior role available at your company and you are trying to get out some resource, like two resources having like same amount of quality or like having different perspective, but one person who has learned it all by himself and the other person who's having like industry standard certification and part. So how do you see those point of view? And also, let's also include the context of if it is like a person is obviously having an industry known certification, he is like an definitely a good asset. Like the people would really like when you tell about the customers about your pen testing team and you just mention about like these certifications, they are qualified. They really like understand in a better way than like going and explaining about like self-learning stuff and how well it like enhances the people. How do you see that thing? Which person do you prefer personally?
So I'm not really a big fan of certification. For me, it's really like moving the cost of hiring from the enterprise to the individual. So instead of having enterprises who like spend time understanding the skills of applicants, they are getting people to get certified. And this way they don't have to check the skills or they don't have to spend as much time checking the skills of people. And the point that it has become such a big market that there is not like one certification where you're like, okay, if you got this certification, you can get a job, right? It's not like if you're an accountant, if you're like CPA, you can like get certified and then you're an accountant, you can get the job. Like right now, it's more like like a lot of businesses have created their own version of their own certification, and you can be certified for like bug bounty, application security, web testing, red teaming, what like, and you have like 7 or 10 different certification. And it's kind of ridiculous that it's at this point where like it feels like a few businesses are making a lot of money out of bad hiring processes. Now then, if you hire someone and then your clients require you or some of your testers to be like ABC certified, you can pay for that. The point is that it's when the individuals are paying for that just to get their foot in the door. But I feel that's like kind of like a scam in a way. And it's the point that a lot of people, a lot of companies are making good money out of that without necessarily teaching people. And it's a really hard problem. I wish I had a solution, but it's really hard. And and I think it goes back to as well what I was talking about, the difference between like CTF and doing your own research. The problem is that people, instead of doing their own research, doing hard work, doing things that are uncertain, things that they feel like they're wasting time, what they do is they do certifications. So they keep doing certification and certification and certification, and they feel like they're getting better and better and better. The only thing they're getting better at is getting certification. They're not necessarily becoming better hackers, or they're not like becoming better researchers. They may be getting a tiny bit better, but if they getting worse and worse at doing their own thing. They just follow someone else's path. They just like say like, okay, I want to learn red team, so I'm going to use this enterprise view, this training certification platform view of what red team is. Instead of saying like, that's what I want to learn, that's what interests me, that's what I think is relevant. They just like follow someone else. Like, yeah. And I think
That's true.
that's a prime. One day they will need to do their own thing, and they don't know how to do that because again, they like follow someone else.
So, since we were talking a lot about like self-learning and research and spending a lot of time learning different things, which is like months and months together and not having a really good output, but eventually in a longer term, it's like compounding and like helps us in finding and one particular vulnerability which is going to change, like it's going to become like an revolution and path. So, if I can ask you, like, if you had to choose a particular topic and do research for next 12 months, what will be the topic that you'll be choosing?
For that, I will probably look at. I think SAML will be interesting. I think SAML there are still like a lot of bugs to be found. AI could be interesting, but so many people are working on that. Using AI as an assistant for code review, for pen test would be interesting, but a lot of people are working on that. Everything that is hard, like I think is a good, yeah, if you want to do research and find cool bugs and do talks and things like that, I think everything that is hard is worth spending time on. Everything that people can't be bothered doing because it's too hard, so they just give up. And if you don't give up, you're going to find cool stuff. Because, yeah, a lot of people just find it too hard, or there is not enough methodologies, or it's just not interesting enough, so they just don't do it. And yeah.
That's nice. Like, if I can ask you, so what is the recent interesting problem that you tried solving? Like, so what was that like you are working on recently?
Right now, as in technical details, so like more big picture, small details.
Think I would obviously like to hear both of the things. One inside the technical part, like obviously because I'm very interested on that as well, and also on the higher level, there may be some hobbies or like some destination which you personally wanted to achieve. Like, yeah, I would like to hear the both.
So on the technical details, right now I'm working on like SAML attacks and getting better at those. On the big picture, I think finding a way to not have or not having enterprise not rely on certification will be something I would really love to solve. But yeah, so yeah, that's going from like details to big picture. But yeah, um, I like people to go back to when like people really enjoy like the technology aspect of things and understanding things and looking at those details and not necessarily being on a leaderboard, like just like trying to get one certification after the other, just like going back to like, yeah, how people used to enjoy hacking, I think.
While researching about you, so I read a blog. I don't remember from where I read about it. So I saw you recommending a lot of books, and one of the thing is I think it's called Rework. How has the books played a key role in your life, and how often do you read? So
So I like rework, but I think from the same people, you have a book named Getting Real, which is a lot better around like creating a product and not comparing yourself to competitions and things like that. I think a lot better than Rework. Rework is a all right book, but like Getting Real is a lot better than Rework around like product features management and all these things. But and it mattered, like I think it really like gave direction to PentesterLab early on, especially.
So this is like more of a very personal question. So what is your like hobby right now? Like apart from security point of view, what do you do like in your free times? Like go play around or like what is your hobby? Like go for a track or something like that.
So I have kids. That's already like a pretty good hobby, a very time consuming one. I'm trying to get back into triathlon. So yeah, trying to do like probably like a few triathlons this year. And so right now I'm training in swimming and running, and I need to get back on a bike. But yeah, otherwise, no, like just walking around the house, yard, taking care of the kids and things like that. And security, a lot of
Right.
security.
Nice. And this is like a very generic questions. Like we used to ask it a lot of places, and I just wanted to ask you, like, if you really wanted to change something which is like an thing which is believed by a lot of people in the field of security, and just you just wanted to change that perspective, what would that be?
I will tell them to enjoy the journey, to not being too focused on like certification, on result, on leaderboard, but just learning, because it's an amazing engineering challenge to understand security. And I think people should spend more time like understanding those tiny details that are like, it's like Lego. It's like solving Lego, and spending more time doing that as opposed to like running after like certification and things like that.
So coming up to the last question which I have is that, so one key thing which you wanted the audience, like who is going to see this video, what will that key point will be? So since this podcast is more of into like the students who are trying to get into this field, and people who are trying to switch their career in context with cybersecurity. So these are the key audience that I'm trying to focus on. So what will be like the one point that you want them to focus? And obviously, I understand that from your previous answer that they should never like go and like in the back of an particular certification or like an bug bounty, like any leaderboard, as you mentioned. So apart from that, what is some key things which they can do, which will definitely help them and like having a good knowledge on this field?
So I think the recommendation I will have for people recommendation I will have people, especially if they're starting, is to try to go deep and really get specialized in one thing, as opposed to trying to be good at everything, because everyone wants to be, it's easy to be good at or average at everything, but it's really hard to get really good at something. And if you are running a pen test team, or if you are doing bug bounty or whatever, what you want is people who are really good at a few things. That's being like, or having done like a certification on something is like, a lot of people will do that, but being one of the 10 people, the 10 best people on JWT, on SAML, on whatever, that's a lot harder to achieve. And that's a lot more valuable. Like if you know a protocol inside out, or you know like a language, programming language inside out, you're a lot more valuable to an employer, as opposed to just being another person with like 2 certification or 3 certification. Being really, really good at that, and being good, but also showing people that you're good, like doing talks or doing blog posts or doing like things like that to demonstrate that knowledge, and interacting with people around that. I think that's a lot more valuable, and that's more unique than just like getting certifications, for example.
Okay.
So I think the recommendation I will have for people recommendation I will have people, especially if they're starting, is to try to go deep and really get specialized in one thing, as opposed to trying to be good at everything. Because everyone wants to be, it's easy to be good at or average at everything, but it's really hard to get really good at something. And if you are running a pen test team, or if you are doing bug bounty or whatever, what you want is people who are really good at a few things. That's being like, or having done like a certification on something is like, a lot of people will do that, but being one of the 10 people, the 10 best people on JWT, on SAML, on whatever, that's a lot harder to achieve. And that's a lot more valuable. Like if you know a protocol inside out, or you know like a language, programming language inside out, you're a lot more valuable to an employer, as opposed to just being another person with like 2 certification or 3 certification. Being really, really good at that, and being good, but also showing people that you're good, like doing talks or doing blog posts or doing like things like that to demonstrate that knowledge, and interacting with people around that. I think that's a lot more valuable, and that's more unique than just like getting certifications, for example.
Okay. So I definitely had a great time talking with you, and it's a lot of things that we discussed, like we did dive into CTF courses, different Pentester Lab, and it's great having you in here. And thank you very much for joining.
Thanks for having me. And have a good one.